You're not stuck. You're undecided. One decision made with finality, one bridge burned with no path back, can birth the man you were always meant to become. Every man who ever built an empire first lit fire to his exit path. This is the decision that ends hesitation, kills distraction, rewrites your identity, and rewires your destiny. If you listen to this speech daily and act upon what you hear, the man you are now will not survive, and the man you become will not apologize for it. Today is the last day you live like you used to. Burn the bridge. There is a tragedy among men, one so subtle and well-dressed that most never recognize it as sabotage. It comes not with a roar, but with a whisper. Keep your options open. That phrase has ruined more dreams, weakened more resolve, and delayed more destinies than failure ever could. For what is a man with options? He is a man undecided. And a man undecided is a man unformed. A man who still leaves the door ajar for safety cannot walk boldly into purpose. You see, growth does not arrive through openness. It arrives through allegiance. A man must marry his definite chief aim, not flirt with it, not entertain it when convenient, but swear to it with the full force of his soul. To do this, he must first look in the mirror and declare, "Everything that is not aligned with my aim is now my enemy." That may sound harsh, but I assure you, it is liberating, because when the subconscious detects uncertainty, it does not rally, it retreats. When it senses a man who keeps a hand on the doorknob of retreat, it obeys that posture with one word: sabotage. Let me speak plainly. Most men are not confused. They are simply cowardly with conviction. They do not lack intelligence. They lack finality. They call themselves flexible, open-minded, realistic. But what they are is undecided. And this indecision is not neutrality. It is betrayal. A man who tells himself, "I'm just keeping my options open," is not expressing wisdom. He is announcing that he fears commitment. He is saying, "I want the rewards of devotion without the cost of surrender." And such a man will never taste greatness, because greatness never arrives where the door is left ajar for compromise. Look at Andrew Carnegie. Did he stumble into steel by accident? Did he hesitate when the moment called for domination? He closed the door on fallback options. He chose his arena, fortified his vision, and eliminated ambiguity. He did not entertain side hustles or safety nets. Why? Because a man divided cannot conquer. His success was not just in his strategy, it was in his singularity. Henry Ford faced investor pressure to change course, to pivot, to soften the vision that burned within him. He could have bowed to the voices of supposed reason, those who claimed flexibility was the key to success. But Ford knew something deeper. Flexibility in conviction is spiritual treason. He was not building to survive the economy of the moment. He was building for history. He did not give his mind the comfort of options. He gave it the clarity of command. Until a man declares, "There is no plan B," he does not own plan A. He merely dates it, keeping one foot in comfort and another in courage. And that tension destroys progress. I will now speak to your inner world, the subconscious realm where your decisions are interpreted, not by the words you say, but by the actions you obey. The subconscious does not respond to inspiration. It responds to repetition and finality. When you leave an option open, it interprets that as your true aim. It says, "Ah, I see, this man is not serious. He has not sworn his allegiance. He still doubts." And when the subconscious doubts your decision, it will find creative ways to sabotage your effort. It will slow your progress, increase your fatigue, and heighten your emotional fragility. Not out of punishment, but out of programming. I tell you with authority, the bridge must burn. Burn the idea that you can serve two lives, the one you dream of and the one you tolerate. Burn the idea that being open makes you wise. It does not. It makes you a target. The man who lives by open doors invites the winds of confusion. Let us now make this real. Repeat these affirmations aloud, not as encouragement, but as commands. Feel each word. Let it override the scripts of hesitation that have lived in you for years. I am the type of man who closes the door behind him. I cut ties with indecision. My options are gone. My outcome is chosen. Say them again. I am the type of man who closes the door behind him. I cut ties with indecision. My options are gone. My outcome is chosen. Let them echo. Speak them until you feel the discomfort, because that discomfort is your old self fighting for survival. But you will not negotiate. You will not explain. You will not delay. You see, when a man finally closes the doors that no longer serve him, a strange thing happens. The noise fades. The mind quiets. Energy consolidates. And what once felt like confusion is replaced with fire, not inspiration. Fire, that deep, focused, unwavering heat that powers transformation. And so I say this to you, not as a suggestion, but as an ultimatum. Kill the illusion of options. Choose your aim. Burn every door that does not lead to it. Speak your allegiance aloud every morning. Let it be known, first to yourself and then to the world, that you are no longer available for compromise. Because the man who keeps his options open has already chosen failure. The door is closed now. Let it stay closed. There comes a moment in every man's life when he must draw a line, not in the sand, but in the stone. And once drawn, he must vow to never cross it again. That line is called decision, not a fleeting preference, not an emotional outburst, but a sacred command to self, sealed in finality. Until this decision is made, no amount of wishing, visualizing, or planning will summon transformation. The world bends for the man who has decided and closes in on the one who has not. Power, progress, and purpose are not born of potential. They are born of permanence. Because progress only begins where retreat ends. Most men fool themselves into thinking they've made decisions. They say, I've decided to change. I've decided to improve. But behind those words lies a back door, a silent agreement with weakness, a subtle clause. Unless it's hard, unless it hurts, unless it takes longer than I hoped, that is not decision. That is drama in disguise. Your subconscious knows the difference. Understand this: the subconscious does not obey soft intentions. It does not respond to vague hopes. It reacts only to clarity, to finality, to spiritual commands backed by emotional force. Until you declare, this is who I am now, without hesitation, the mind will test you, delay you, undermine you, not to punish, but because it does not yet believe you. To reverse this, the bridge must burn, the retreat path must be eliminated, not in theory, but in visible action. Delete the plan B. Destroy the backup, announce the new identity, and make the old one unusable. Because when the mind has nowhere to go but forward, it unleashes strength you never knew existed. Consider Thomas Edison. Did he test the light bulb to try his luck? Did he approach invention as a dabbling endeavor? Number Edison tested to conquer darkness. He made a final decision to bring light into a world of shadows. And in that decision, he did not keep a backup identity. He was not also a businessman, also a cautious scientist. He was an inventor with no escape plan. That is why the filament glowed, not just from science, but from decision made sacred. Look now at Abraham Lincoln, a man pressed between national crisis and internal collapse. The public opinion around him shifted like sand. Advisors counseled compromise. Friends begged him to soften. But Lincoln refused to even consider failure, not as strategy, not as outcome, not as fantasy. He decided that the Union must be preserved, and once he made that vow, he removed the idea of reversal from the equation. That is why history remembers him not just as a leader, but as an immovable force. This is the secret the world does not tell you. The man who decides does not wait for permission. He commands himself. And his subconscious listens, not because he is loud, but because he is final. I tell you, the mind is not a servant to your emotion. It is a servant to your command, but only when the command is absolute. A wish is not a command. A hope is not a vow. A goal is not a decision. Only when you say, "This is what I will do, no matter what," and act in alignment with that declaration, does the brain begin its real work. You may ask, "But what if I fail?" Then you have not yet decided. You are still debating, still leaving a crack open in the door, still preparing a justification for retreat. Close it now. Because when the decision is real, when it touches your identity, failure becomes irrelevant. Not because it can't happen, but because it no longer holds power. You do not move to succeed. You move because it is who you are now. Do you understand it? You are not becoming disciplined. You are now the man who is disciplined. You are not hoping to build. You are the builder. You are not waiting for belief. You believe, and therefore you move. Let us seal this part with the words that will realign your soul to the law of finality. Repeat these affirmations aloud, not like a schoolboy, but like a king announcing law to his realm. I am the type of man who obeys final decisions. I do not waver. I do not wait. I do not wish. My mind obeys clarity, not confusion. There is no path but forward. Retreat is not in my vocabulary. Again with force, I am the type of man who obeys final decisions. I do not waver, I do not wait, I do not wish. My mind obeys clarity, not confusion. There is no path but forward. Retreat is not in my vocabulary. Now breathe. Let the echoes of these words burn the bridge behind you. Let them remind you that you are no longer a man with options. You are a man with orders, self-given, self-enforced, self-fulfilled. The world does not give to the man who tries. It yields to the man who decides. A man cannot serve two masters. He cannot speak in the tongue of his future while entertaining the whispers of his past. This is not philosophy. It is law, the law of identity, the law of personal rebirth. And most men fail not because they are weak, not because they are lazy, but because they are divided. You cannot become someone new while still leaving the door cracked open for the old you. One step forward, one step backward. This is not progress. It is spiritual schizophrenia. And it is how most men live. They say, "I want to change," while they cling to behaviors, beliefs, and patterns that belong to the version they claim to outgrow. This is the great betrayal, to declare a new aim with the voice of the old man. Understand this deeply. Every identity you wear is built on beliefs, and no two conflicting identities can coexist for long without decay. If you truly seek transformation, you must pick one man and bury the other. The death is not symbolic, it is structural, because the subconscious cannot build two temples on the same land. It needs one blueprint, one voice, one ruler. This is why change feels so hard, not because new behavior is difficult, but because you are still trying to keep both men alive. And while you feed one with vision, you still nourish the other with excuses, with memory, with rituals of weakness. This dual loyalty creates internal war, and war consumes energy that should be reserved for building. You may remember what was written in Outwitting the Devil, the concept of hypnotic rhythm, the silent law that keeps men drifting, repeating, falling back into old identities by force of habit. It is not personal, it is mechanical. Unless interrupted by definitive thought, the rhythm will pull you back into your familiar self like a tide. Every time you return to an old pattern, you are not merely slipping, you are reviving a man you promised to bury. That skipped morning routine, that delayed decision, that rationalization for comfort, those are not small acts. They are resurrections, and they come at a cost. If you want peace, you must be willing to kill the old you and mean it. When you burn the bridge, you are not just eliminating options. You are declaring spiritual exile for the man who lived behind you. You are saying, you are no longer welcome in this body, in this voice, in this world I am building. It is not polite. It is not gentle. It is final. Look now to Elbert Hubbard, a man who did not flirt with approval, nor negotiate his beliefs. He chose his creed early in life, and he walked it without apology. He was not interested in being liked. He was interested in being aligned. He once wrote, "To avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing." But he chose instead to become something, and that meant criticism, misunderstanding, and isolation. So be it. He lived as one man, not two. You must choose your creed, your identity, and then walk it until the world catches up or doesn't. It is no longer your concern. Now, listen. When you hear yourself say, "I know I'm improving, but sometimes I still..." catch it. That is the voice of two men sharing one body. When you find yourself justifying habits you already outgrew, pause. That is not weakness. It is duality, and it must be removed. Begin the removal with language. Your words are the architecture of your being. Stop speaking the dialect of your past. No more, "I've always been like this." No more, "I'm trying." These phrases do not belong to the man you are becoming. They are relics. They are ghosts. And they are not permitted on the new land. You must speak as the man you claim to be. "I act decisively. I command my day. I live aligned." Say it before you believe it, and soon you will not remember how to speak otherwise. This is how the old man dies, not with fanfare, but through daily silence. Let us now drive the nail into this principle with fire. Repeat these affirmations, not for hype, but for installation. Let them carve a new code in your nervous system. I am the type of man who replaces memory with vision. I no longer speak the language of my former self. I am becoming and unbecoming simultaneously. Again, with certainty, I am the type of man who replaces memory with vision. I no longer speak the language of my former self. I am becoming and unbecoming simultaneously. Breathe them in. This is not motivation, it is instruction. Spoken by the version of you that refuses to drift. Spoken by the version of you that knows one truth above all. You cannot be two men. You must decide. One must rise, one must vanish, and from this day forward, only one man will walk. Most men believe the bridge to their old self is behind them, some ancient structure they once crossed and never returned to. But in truth, they rebuild it daily, quietly, privately, with excuses. Excuses are not harmless. They are not simply delays or moments of weakness. They are construction materials. Each one is a beam, a nail, a plank laid down toward the very version of yourself you swore to leave behind. And the more you excuse, the more robust that bridge becomes, until, without realizing it, you've rebuilt a pathway you thought you destroyed. I'll start when I'm ready. Now's not the right time. I just have a lot going on. I'll see how I feel. These are not phrases, they are blueprints. Blueprints for a life that never changes. Understand this. Every time you delay, every time you justify stagnation, every time you soothe yourself with a valid reason, you are not just pausing your progress, you are resurrecting your past. You may tell yourself you're just being patient, just being wise, just being realistic, but this is self-deception dressed in polite language. What you are really doing is saying, "I still want a path back to comfort if this gets hard." And that is not transformation. That is drift. Burning the bridge means you destroy not only the physical paths that lead back, but the mental language that makes those paths seem reasonable. You tear out phrases like "I'll try," you eliminate "maybe someday," you cut out "if it works out," because these are not soft, these are not cautious, these are sabotage. A man who is serious never speaks in possibility, he speaks in certainty. Let us remember Charles M. Schwab, who rose from the steel mills to become president of Carnegie Steel. He was not a man who tolerated even the suggestion of limitation. When advisors or colleagues presented caution over expansion, he dismissed it, not with rudeness, but with finality. He understood that even one seed of hesitation could infect a vision. He guarded his mind and the minds of those around him like a fortress. Schwab did not let language linger that didn't build. And neither can you. You must become a guardian of your own vocabulary. If a phrase does not align with certainty, strike it from your speech. Excuses may come from fatigue, from pressure, from fear, but that does not make them truth. They are noise. And the man who would build something sacred must learn to ignore noise. Here is the trap. Excuses often sound intelligent. They masquerade as wisdom. They come disguised as planning, as strategy, as humility. But they are none of these things. They are fear with a better wardrobe. What sounds like waiting for the right time is often just fear of rejection. What sounds like gathering more information is often fear of failure. What sounds like considering your options is often fear of commitment. Excuses are liars, but worse than that, they are builders. Every time you listen to one, you give it a tool. And brick by brick, your old self returns, not because you invited him, but because you built him a way back. You say you want to change? Then destroy the materials. Refuse to speak in anything but action. Let people call you rigid, even extreme. They don't understand the war you're in, and they do not have to. From this point forward, you will not speak in options. You will speak in outcomes. From this point forward, you will not wait for clarity. You will create it through commitment. And from this point forward, you will not decorate your doubt with noble words. You will act. Let us now install this truth at the subconscious level. These affirmations are not merely sentences. They are structural reinforcements. Speak them not casually, but with force. Let them replace every excuse you've ever uttered. I am the type of man who rejects the comfort of excuses. I speak in outcomes, not options. There is no alternative, only advancement. Again, louder. I am the type of man who rejects the comfort of excuses. I speak in outcomes, not options. There is no alternative, only advancement. Say them again tomorrow and the next day, until the sound of excuses offends your senses, until I'll try feels like a foreign tongue, until maybe tastes like ash in your mouth, because that is how you know you have burned the bridge, when there is no going back, not even in speech, when even the idea of retreat feels like a lie. And on that day, you will not need motivation. You will move by identity. You will act as one who has already chosen. No more scaffolding and no more bricks, no more bridges. Only fire, only forward. There's a kind of decision that changes nothing. It sounds strong. It may even sound righteous. It may be written in a notebook or declared to a friend. But under pressure, it crumbles. It melts under heat. These are surface-level declarations, decisions made from the lips, not the soul. And they are as fragile as paper. A man cannot expect transformation from a shallow vow. He cannot build a new identity on a whisper. If the decision is to reshape his very being, then it must touch the core of his existence. It must reach the depths where fear hides. It must echo through every cell until the subconscious itself is rewired. You cannot be casual with a vow that is meant to sever your old self. You cannot toss it into the air and hope it sticks. This type of commitment must be forged, not scribbled. You must emotionalize it. You must feel it with such intensity that it carves itself into your nervous system. Because when the resistance comes, and it will come, it will not check your calendar or your to-do list. It will not ask what you meant when you said you'd change. It will test how deeply you meant it. And if your vow lives only in the mind, not the marrow, it will collapse. That is why visualization is not fantasy. It is law. To see yourself as the man who has already acted, already become, already conquered, is to speak directly to the only part of you that matters in transformation, the subconscious. The subconscious does not care what you say. It listens only to what you feel and repeat. And it obeys only what is declared with emotional fire. If you repeat a new identity long enough, if you feed it vision, words, imagery, and repetition, it becomes real. This is autosuggestion. the great tool called the medium through which man may voluntarily shape his character. Henry Ford understood this law. Before a single car left the assembly line, Ford had seen it, every detail. He saw a world of movement, of industrial rhythm, of automobiles rolling across the nation. While the world laughed and investors threatened withdrawal, Ford held the image in his mind's eye. It was not a wish. It was not ambition. It was a decision already made long before reality caught up. That is the power of a vow made at the soul level. It rewrites the laws of your perception. The world will tell you what's realistic. The soul laughs and continues building. Andrew Carnegie, too, made such a vow. Before he held his first fortune in hand, he had already committed to giving it away. This was not posturing. It was not a publicity move. It was a soul-aligned creed. Carnegie understood that the vow must come before the result, or it will be polluted by convenience. He did not wait until wealth was comfortable to promise generosity. He made the decision in advance when it hurt, when it was still faith. And because of this, the vow shaped his mission, not the other way around. Men think they can make soul-level decisions without emotion, without visualization, without repetition. They are wrong. The body must feel the shift. The voice must speak the creed. The imagination must walk the future like it already exists. This is not magic. It is mental craftsmanship. It is the only way to bend reality. So now ask yourself, have I made a vow or merely written a goal? Have I declared war on my old self, or am I simply making notes? Have I felt the decision in my chest, or only in my calendar? If your answer is vague, then you know what you must do. You must embed the decision into your very being. Speak it, repeat it, emotionalize it, see it, not once, not twice, but daily, until the decision stops being something you remember and starts being something you are. Let us now speak affirmations that are not made for motivation, but for reprogramming. Let them not touch your ears, but your blood. Let them live inside your actions, not just your mornings. I am the type of person who speaks from the soul. I feel what I decide. My decision is carved into my being. My vision is sacred. My vow is not motivation, it is law. Say them. Then close your eyes. Picture the man who has already lived them. Now open your eyes and be him. Because the world does not need more men with goals. It needs men who make sacred vows and walk them. Men whose decisions are not written in ink but etched in fire. And you, if you are still reading, have felt the flame. There is a moment after every great decision where silence falls. The excitement of change dies down. The applause fades. The crowd moves on. And you are left alone with your vow. It is in this moment, the hours and days after the bridge has been burned, that the true battle begins. You feel it as a quiet tension in the chest. A whisper that says, "Did I go too far?" This is not failure, this is not weakness, this is the resistance. And it arrives not because you've gone the wrong way, but because you've chosen the right one. Once the path is clear and the return is no longer available, the mind will send old ghosts to test your conviction. Doubt will knock on the door, dressed in the robe of logic. Fatigue will pretend to be wisdom. Fear will speak with your own voice. And you must be prepared, not to reason with them, not to entertain them, but to recognize them as guardians of greatness. For resistance does not visit the man who drifts. It does not chase the one who avoids growth. It haunts only those who dare to change. This battle, this inner war, is the confirmation that you are near something sacred. If it were easy, it would not be destiny. Your greatest self is not revealed when you burn the bridge. That is only the announcement. The real unveiling happens when, after burning the bridge, you are tempted to rebuild it, and you choose instead to march forward. Every man who has risen to something higher has faced this tension. Abraham Lincoln, perhaps more than any statesman of his era, understood this battle. His greatest speeches, those etched into the memory of nations, did not come from applause, but from adversity. They came after rejection, loss, and failure. He was not embraced, he was attacked. And yet, the flames of public opinion became the forge of his character. He used the pressure not to retreat, but to refine. He did not rebuild his bridge to popularity. He let it burn and walked through the smoke toward purpose. This is your task as well. You must learn to anchor yourself daily to your definite chief aim, not casually, not once a week, daily, because the world will try to pull you back into compromise. It will remind you of your comforts. It will tempt you with the idea that maybe you were too extreme. But when you repeat your aim, when you visualize it, declare it, speak it aloud, it becomes not just a goal, but a command. It becomes armor. And this is where the mastermind becomes vital. Too many men seek comfort in their circle. They surround themselves with friends who pat them on the back when they shrink. But a true mastermind is not a safety net. It is a forge. Its purpose is not to protect you from fire, but to keep you in it long enough to become indestructible. Choose your circle not based on how they treat your feelings, but how they treat your standards. Do they push you to rise, or do they comfort you in decline? The battle after the bridge burns is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of meaning. If you feel resistance, do not shrink. Smile. It means you've touched something real. It means you've left the land of drift and entered the realm where few walk. This is sacred ground, and you belong here. Now let us affirm that belonging. Let us speak the words that are not wishes, but declarations of identity. Say them not with hope, but with certainty. Say them not to feel better, but to become bulletproof. I do not rebuild what I burned. I use resistance as fuel. Every obstacle is confirmation of my path. Say them again, then walk back into the fire. This is where the new man is born. When a man truly decides to change, the world does not applaud. It reacts, it recoils, it panics. Because a man who burns his bridges is dangerous, not to others, but to the systems and identities that depend on his former weakness. Your transformation will unsettle more than your own habits. It will ripple outward, threatening to disturb the fragile balance others have built between comfort and delusion. And so, without malice, but with great power, the world will try to rebuild your bridge for you. It will not come as sabotage. It will come dressed in care. It will sound like kindness, like concern. Don't be so hard on yourself. Maybe slow down. Why change what already works? These are not the words of enemies. These are the words of loved ones, of co-workers, of old friends, and they will mean well. But their intention is not what matters. What matters is whether you let them pass through the gates of your conviction. See, your decision to rise is an affront to drift. Burned bridges offend those still standing on the dock, waiting for the perfect moment to move. Your fire reflects their hesitation. Your clarity mocks their compromise. And so, unconsciously, they will try to extinguish what you've ignited. Not because they wish you harm, but because they wish to silence the voice inside themselves that says, "You too must rise." But you are no longer a man who entertains the past. You are not here to argue for your transformation. You are here to live it. Look at Andrew Carnegie. As he rose through the ranks of steel, he began shedding relationships that no longer served the weight of his purpose. Advisors, acquaintances, even friends. Anyone who injected hesitation or doubt into his vision was removed, not with cruelty, but with certainty. Because a man building an empire cannot take counsel from those still building excuses. And Thomas Edison, when doubted by investors and ridiculed by newspapers, did not scale back his vision to earn applause. He built what he saw. He protected his laboratories, his team, and his belief, not by arguing with the public, but by ignoring it completely. When his prototype failed, he did not run to explain. He got back to work. And when the light finally came, when the darkness was pierced by what once only existed in his mind, he let the results speak for themselves. You must do the same. Do not explain. Do not defend. Do not negotiate with those who never made your vow. You do not owe anyone your old self, and you do not need permission to become new. In fact, the most sacred stage of transformation is often the most misunderstood: isolation. The space where the crowd no longer cheers, but the mission still burns. The space where doubt echoes louder than praise. But this is where the man is carved. This is where you prove to yourself that your commitment is not dependent on applause, agreement, or validation. Let the world misunderstand you. Let them think you've changed. You have. Let them call you cold. Let them say you've forgotten who you were. You have. That was the point. The bridge is gone. You are not going back. Not for comfort, not for connection, not for nostalgia. And if you must walk alone for a while, then walk alone. A man on fire needs no company. He only needs direction. Let us now affirm this direction, not with passive hopes, but with the language of command. Speak these not to comfort your feelings, but to program your actions. I defend my decision. I do not require understanding to act. I welcome isolation over dilution. Say them twice. Say them with your chest. Then look to the horizon, because your bridge is gone and your ascent has just begun. Find a quiet space. No distractions, no voices, just you and the truth. Take a blank sheet of paper and at the top write the title, Excuses That Have Kept Me Small. Now, without filters, without shame, begin to write. Write down every justification you've ever whispered to yourself when faced with the work of your destiny. Write every soft lie that lets you drift instead of build. Every I'll start tomorrow, every maybe it's not the right time, every I'm not ready yet. Dig them up. The ones you said last week, last year, and the ones you've rehearsed so long they feel like personality. No one will read this but you, so don't hold back. List every excuse like you're testifying before the judge of your own life, because you are. Now pause. Look at what's on the page. See the architecture of your own prison. These words, these innocent phrases have cost you time, confidence, progress, purpose. They have stolen years you will never get back. Now, speak them aloud, one by one. Let them hear the tone of your voice, the weight of your conviction. And as you say each one, declare after it, this is not who I am anymore. After the final excuse, fold the paper in half, then fold it again. And as you do, say aloud, this chapter is closed. The man I was no longer lives here. Now burn it, safely but decisively. Watch it turn to ash. Watch your excuses vanish as smoke in the air. And as the flame consumes the page, stand tall and repeat this. I am not the man who speaks these anymore. I speak in decision, I act in purpose. The bridge is burned, and I will not rebuild it. Breathe. You are lighter now, not because the work is over, but because you've just removed the weight of deception from your shoulders. Now go, build forward. You owe nothing to hesitation. You owe everything to the fire. There will come a day, if you stay the course, when you will no longer remember the man who hesitated. You will no longer relate to the one who questioned his own power, who moved with apology, who asked permission to rise. The past version of yourself, the drifter, the doubter, the one who talked more than he built, will no longer have a seat at the table of your life. You won't feel the need to explain your change. You will be the change. It will echo in your posture, your voice, the intensity in your eyes. You will walk into a room and say nothing, and yet the atmosphere will shift, because the man who stands there is not available for confusion. He is not open to interpretation. He has decided who he is. Transformation is not cosmetic. It is not louder clothes or more impressive words. It is identity, a total rebirth at the root. You have burned the bridge. You have rewritten your language. You have denied the world your former version, and in doing so, you have become undeniable. The man on the other side is not seeking applause. He is not checking mirrors. He is not logging into old platforms to see what others think. He has work to do. He has legacy to carve. He has a vow to fulfill. And the most beautiful part? He does not remember the old struggle, not because it wasn't real, but because it is no longer relevant. Like a snake that has shed its skin, he does not mourn what was left behind. It served its purpose. It carried him far enough, but it does not belong here anymore. The old voice, the one that whispered maybe later, just in case, or what if it doesn't work, has been replaced. You now speak in terms of I will, I am, and this is already done. You do not argue with doubt. You do not negotiate with fear. You have declared your life sacred, and sacred things do not beg. If a man were to meet you today, having never known the old you, he would assume you have always been this way, disciplined, unshakable, clear, and you wouldn't correct him. Because in many ways he would be right. This is who you were born to be before you inherited hesitation. This is your truest self, finally unburdened. When you walk now, you walk as a man who has made a decision and never looked back. You do not flirt with failure. You do not court confusion. You have embraced the loneliness that comes with elevation and found strength in your solitude. There will be a moment, so quiet yet so powerful, when you will look in the mirror and realize, I don't recognize the man I used to be, and I do not grieve him. That is the moment you've been working for. Not praise, not applause, just internal certainty so loud that the rest of the world becomes irrelevant noise. You have crossed the line. The man on the other side is not a version of the old man upgraded. He is new, entirely. And he did not come here by chance. He was summoned through vision, sacrifice, fire, and repetition. Welcome to the other side. To reinforce this new reality, you must now design your self-concept consciously. Your subconscious must be given new orders, spoken with clarity and emotion. Here's your task. Write 5 identity statements that begin with, I am the type of man who... These statements must reflect the version of yourself you are now becoming. Not the man you were, but the man you live as starting today. Examples. I am the type of man who moves without hesitation. I am the type of man who finishes what he starts. I am the type of man who honors his word above all. I am the type of man who speaks with vision and acts with fire. I am the type of man who outgrows every excuse. Speak them aloud every morning and every night. Do not whisper. Speak as if your subconscious is a soldier taking orders, and you are its general. Update them monthly. As you evolve, so must your declarations. A new version of you will have new commands to instill. Repetition is power, but adaptation is mastery. These are no longer affirmations. These are identity codes. This is not self-help. This is self-command. Build your identity as a man who left no room for retreat. Let your thoughts obey your new creed. Let your life mirror your language. And above all, never return to the man who would have needed excuses to delay his destiny. That man no longer exists. You burned the bridge. Now build forward. Listen to me now, and then listen again tomorrow, and the day after that, and the next. Not because I speak with force, but because repetition is law. Repetition is the sculptor of your identity. 1 listen may awaken you, but 100 listens will remake you. You are not here by accident. You were called to this message because your old identity no longer fits. It chokes you. It weighs you down. You've tried adjusting it, reworking it, softening its flaws. But the truth is, it must die. And that death must be final. No resurrection, no emergency exits, no emotional goodbyes. The version of you that settled, explained, hoped, and delayed, he cannot be brought with you. Let this message run through your blood like iron. Let it pierce the shell of your excuses. Let it become the voice in your head, louder than the fear, clearer than the doubt, more consistent than the world's noise. Because this is not a speech, it is a seed. And with enough repetition, it will grow into command. You've now heard what men like Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Lincoln, Schwab, and Hubbard understood. That the man who decides his life is not the same as the man who hopes for it. One burns the bridge and builds. The other wanders and wonders. One becomes the creator. The other remains the creation. And so I say to you now with full conviction, repeat this message, not once, not occasionally, daily. Let it rewire the rhythm of your mind. Let it become your auto-suggestion, spoken not as a wish, but as law. Speak it when you rise, speak it when you are tired, speak it when the old self whispers for comfort. Because repetition is not weakness, it is how kings are made. Every sentence you've just heard carries voltage. But only when repeated does it create power. The subconscious does not respect volume. It respects frequency. You must feed it your identity daily. And the more often you do, the more it will obey. This speech is your armor. This speech is your weapon, but only if you wear it, only if you wield it. So return to it until you are it, until the words no longer sound foreign, until you forget the man who needed them, because you have become the man who lives them. There is no closing message here, no gentle goodbye, only final declarations, final affirmations. I am no longer the man I was. I am no longer the man I was. I do not drift, I ascend. I do not drift, I ascend. I live as the man who chose. I live as the man who chose. The old me is gone, and I do not grieve him. The old me is gone, and I do not grieve him. I burned the bridge and never looked back. I burned the bridge and never looked back. Now play it again, and let the fire begin.